Truth Connections.
You're listening to this. Question is, what's real, what's deception, what should we pay attention to? What is it that's driving us insane?
Truth Connections.
Join the resistance. You're listening to this. The world will not be the same.
DK in the Hang Seng as Manhattan prepares for a massive evacuation. In other cities around the world, people are voluntarily evacuating population centers.
Something happening here.
Truth Connections.
You're listening to this.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Catherine Buckaloo, and you are listening to Truth Connections Radio. Thank you for being here. If you'd like to go to our truthconnections.wordpress.com website, you are free to sign up for our YouTube channel or our Truth Connections Facebook page. There's a tab at the top right that will lead you to that. Thanks for being here, everyone. Shakespeare said, "All the world is a stage, and all men and women are merely players." Now more than ever, roles are being defined. Are you a lover, a warrior, a good guy, a bad guy? We cannot be complacent, but we still need to love. There is evidence all around us with countries uprising, global cosmic change is happening. There's pretty much nothing we can do to stop it. And there's also an American-based quote that says, "Go with it or get dragged." And I really love that quote, and that's happening to a lot of people right now. They're getting dragged, whether they like it or not. I think we all need to be a good mix of lover and warrior. How timely that this is episode 69, and we will try to make some sense of restoring the balance. Tonight with us is Santos Bonacci. He is an Australian-Italian Aries who is the king at unraveling ancient wisdom. He is an expert in astrotheology, theology, philosophy, religion, astrology, and the spiritual sciences, and much more. He is also a musician and hosts his own radio show at Universal Truth School and was featured in the film 2012, Crossing Over, A New Beginning by Brave Archer Films. And he will also be in the upcoming release of Bonacci, the film, done by Johnny Guzman. Without any further delay, please help me welcome back Santos Bonacci to the show. Welcome, Santos.
Hey, Kathy. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're so glad you're here with us today.
It's great to be here.
Yes, indeed. You're back for the 9th time. You're one of the most frequent flyers we've ever had at Truth Connections. And it's obvious that the audience just likes our energy and likes what we do when we do it. So I'm happy to always have you back, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. Would you like to first begin by just touching base on what's going on in Brazil and Turkey with all these uprisings? People are pretty much having enough of it.
Yeah, they've woken up, Kathy. It's the veils have fallen, the scales have fallen off the eyes, and people can see. Mm-hmm. What people are seeing is that they have enough goodness and greatness and freedom and wisdom and godship in their own organisms that they don't need non-existent external authorities to tell them what to do.
Right.
So the time for government to be put to bed, to be buried in its grave, that has been prepared for it since time immemorial has come. Government, what is a government? We've grown up in the last century, this generation, my generation. I can speak for my generation anyway. I'm 50, and I remember growing up through the 60s and 70s, the Cold War, Vietnam. I remember that one. But we've seen many ever since, and we've always had, we've been indoctrinated through the media and school and all of the outlets that the financial elite have at their disposal. Now, and they make use of these things, believe you me, especially the media, but we've always been fearful of something, Fear has been the modus operandi. And the reason they've generated fear in us, either it's we haven't paid enough tax, or some government agency is not happy with us and they've sent us some mail or something like that, and we're always busy with their paperwork. The fact is that the government doesn't exist, and people have realised that. The emperor's wearing no clothes, Dorothy's finally pulled back the curtain and seen that there's there's just a bunch of idiots that call themselves government that run around demanding our attention, by putting it in our face that we need to direct a lot of our energy to them. And what do? They cause wars around the planet, famines and shortages, and they're just useless. So I think people have realised that self-determination is absolutely the only way for the future, and it's here, it's arrived, so we can all be self-determined, say no to corporations and government. They don't exist. When one of their agencies come to me, I just say, well, you show me the government that is sending you. I want to see it, I want to touch it, I want to look at it, I want to see what it looks like. Whatever this monster is that you work for, you show me that, and I'll talk to it and see if we've got any contract. Because if we haven't got a contract, I'm not doing business with you. Goodbye.
Simple as that, isn't it? I mentioned to you earlier, and just a side note for the audience, I've noticed a lot of other radio hosts and people in general on Facebook are seemingly taking a break, the rest of the summer in July and August. I've noticed a lot of people, and I think we're all doing that intuitively to prepare our light bodies and to get back to ourselves, because we work so hard on the regular basis just doing what we do, and we put a lot of our personal time on the shelf so we can do this, and I think it's kind of interesting how a lot of us are taking breaks right now. Do you think that's a mistake?
No. Look, I think we've all sort of had our life energy sapped out of us. I know I have. For 3 years, I've been hammering it with no repose, and that's not good. And so I went to Ecuador last month, spent a month there with Johnny and his team, and we travelled a lot and filmed a lot and did a lot of presentations. I did 5 Spanish presentations, 3 in English.
Excellent.
And I did so much work, and in my mind, I expected to put weight on, because I was about 53 kilos before I left, severely underweight. And I lost 3 kilos. And when I got back, I made a decision. This all happened, I didn't just sort of make a decision one morning. It all sort of, everything amounted to it becoming clear to me in my mind beyond any shadow of a doubt that the reason why I've lost 10 kilos in the last 3 years and haven't been able to put it on, despite all the good things that I do, I realised that I needed to nourish myself, and and because I'm nourishing others. I've been doing this for 3 years, just flat out, as we say in Australia.
I'm guilty. I've completely given up on everything except for this and what I have to do for my mommy duties. So I understand completely.
Yeah. So when I weighed myself when I got back from Ecuador, I was 50 kilos, and today I'm 57.
Well, that's good. You're getting more then, right?
Yeah, so I put 7 kilos on just by stopping everything. I stopped absolutely everything for 3 weeks. Everything. I did nothing. And no radio shows, nothing at all. And, I'm really enjoying it. I've got all this muscle tone now, and my cheeks are filled out. And so, I realised that, and I knew absolutely that if I would rest and nourish myself, I'd put weight on, and that's it.
So where are we at now? How was it in South America filming?
Yeah, it was great. There's no doubt about it. It was fantastic. Johnny took us to the two sacred temples in Ecuador, one in the south in Cuenca, and one in the north at the middle of the earth, what's called La Mitad del Mundo, on the equator, of course, the middle of the earth. So and that's in Quito, in the north. So Cuenca and Quito. Now, you can look these up if you go to YouTube, if you want to have a look at the Temple of the Sun in Inga Pirka. It's I-N-G-A, Inga, not Inca with a K, it's Inga Pirka, P-I-R-C-A. That's the temple we went to. And then we went to La Mitad del Mundo on the equator in Quito. And Quito actually means the middle of the world. So it's the capital of Ecuador, and it means the middle of the world. And there's a whole bunch of temples on the equator, but this particular one we went to, the guide there, he was great. Cristobal, his name was. And I purchased so many jade necklaces and jade stone and calendars. I purchased the calendar from there, right? The Quituscara people, the ancestors of Quito, they had one of the best calendars in the world, and I've got this one now hanging up on my wall. You can buy them for $1. And it shows everything that I show in my syncretism. It shows the 4 holy days, March the 21st, the equinox, September 21st, which they call Inti Raymi. And by the way, the March 21st equinox, we have a festival called Easter when that happens. And in the Latin world, it's called Pasqua. Right? Now, if you write that down on a piece of paper, you get P-A-S-Q-U-A in Italian, Pasqua. Now, guess what the 21st of March is called in Ecuador, in the Quituscara people? It's called Paucar, P-A-W-Q-A-R. Now, some people might consider it a bit of a stretch, but I can see it clearly in my mind's eye, and I can hear it clearly that they are one and the same words. Paucar and Pascuar. Pascua and Paucar. Anyway, continuing on.
Makes sense to me, Santos, that's for sure.
It absolutely does. And it is Paucar, which is the 21st of March. The Pascua, or the Easter celebration, is one and the same all over the world. So basically, I went to this temple to not to learn anything, but to find that I would be taught exactly what I expected to be taught. Cristobal spent about an hour with us. We were the only ones there in the museum, in the temple. We were very fortunate. We got all of his time, and we filmed it. It'll be in the documentary. But Cristobal, he got us to walk on the equator, and he told us that we were a couple of kilos lighter, and you could feel it.
Wow.
Yeah, and what he explained, the sundial that he had in the temple there that he rebuilt, the Spanish came and destroyed it, and he rebuilt it. He's an indigenous from the Quituscara people. And what he explained is that directly overhead, of course, on the solstice of June the 21st, the sun casts no shadow on the ground on June the 21st.
Interesting.
Yeah, no shadow. Because, of course, it's the middle of the earth, and the sun is directly above, and there cannot be any shadow. So their sundial is based on that, and it's one of the most beautiful sundials. We filmed it. It's going to be in the video, in the documentary. And so basically, I just went there to confirm that what I'm teaching on the other side of the globe with syncretism and the 4 holy days and the equinoxes and the solstices is the universal science. And that's it. It's universal. And so what I'm going to do today, we're going to talk about the Book of Revelation. Now, one of the most enigmatic and mysterious mystic books ever. It's really a marvel. It's a marvel. The Book of Revelation is absolutely a marvel. But you need the key to understand it. So rather than me jumping straight into the book, Kathy, and perhaps explaining all of these marvelous creatures that turn up, a beast that comes out of the water with 7 heads and 10 horns, or the image that St. John has when he falls to his feet and he sees the glory of God, and he sees a creature adorned in white and a sword protruding from its mouth, and a voice as loud as the thunder, and hair as white as snow. Rather than explaining quite simply, and you'll be surprised how simple it is, you'll fall flat on your face, how simple it is to explain these beasts once you have the key. Now, the key has been hidden from humanity, and definitely the key has been hidden from churchgoers. Churchgoers are the ones who have been duped the most. And Jesus, in Matthew chapter 23, condemns the lawyers and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and says, "Woe to you, for you have thrown away the key of knowledge, and you hinder these little sheep from going into the kingdom." The key's so simple, Kathy, and you're going to know it, and your listeners are going to know it today and forevermore, and you will never be confused. You will never, ever, when you're reading the Bible or the Papal Vu, the Mahabharata, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Zendavesta, the Talmud, Zohar, Enuma Elish, Sefer Yetzirah, whatever you're reading, you will have the key.
Excellent.
Quite simple. Yep, quite simple, and it's hiding in plain sight. Now, for the listeners and for yourself too, we're going to open a browser and we're going to Google 3 words, and you will find the key right there, or part of the key at least. The words are Royal Arch Zodiac. Royal, R-O-Y-A-L, Royal Arch, A-R-C-H, Zodiac, Z-O-D-I-A-C. Just in case people, if for the first time, are unfamiliar with these words.
Sure.
And we'll leave that for a minute, but you'll notice if you go to images, click on images. Once you've done that, so you've got, you're in a browser, Google Royal Arch Zodiac, and click on images. Now, I do hope that you and the listeners will have the same page that I get. You'll see a whole bunch of arches, right? It looks very Masonic.
Yes, I don't usually venture out live, but for you, I will do that. It does look very Masonic.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's leave it at that for a moment. Now, this is the key. Once you understand this, and I'll probably only need, if I'm good today, and I'm, my mind's working well, my Mercury's happening, I should be able to explain the key to you in an hour, in half an hour to an hour. All right? So, but I think it's very, very important that first we understand the key, rather than then we'll have a look. We'll venture into the Book of Revelation, and we'll see how this key will help us to understand all of those things. And what I want to do is I want to spend some time at least on that creature that St. John saw, and also the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, but also the 7 congregations that are in Asia. That needs to be discussed. And Revelation chapter 14, where it talks about the Lamb standing on Mount Zion with the 144,000. Now, that's a very, very powerful chapter in Revelation. Of course, it has spurned, should I say spawned? Yeah, spawned many songs and poems, and it has inspired many an artist.
Powerful number 2, number 144, right?
Yeah, well, it's the subject of the song. You know that song, "Oh, when the saints go marching."
Okay, yeah.
Right. Oh Lord, I want to be in that number. Well, the number is the 144,000. Well, today we're going to spend some time on that and explain what all these scary symbols are all about. The Lamb standing on Mount Zion with the 144,000. Who are they, etc. And in order to do that, we just need the key. And here is the key. So the listeners will hopefully be in this page. If not, when you have time, Google Royal Arch zodiac, and you need to have a look at this arch. So, all right, now can you see the coloured arch there, Kathy? The one that looks like it's got pink and purple. It's coloured. It's the only coloured arch there.
Yes, I have an arch. It's pink and grey.
Okay, all right. Well, never mind. What I'll do is I'll just walk you through this and the listeners. Now, what you will notice if you click on any of these arches, probably if you go to the right of the page on the first line, this is my first line. I'm in Google Images, and I'm talking about the first row. All the way to the right, I have an arch, and it's very Freemasonic. It looks, and you'll see March the 21st at the bottom, and September the 23rd at the bottom right. March the 21st you'll see at the bottom left, and September 23rd at the bottom right. Now, what this is, these are the dates of the equinoxes at the bottom of the arch, the Royal Arch. And the arch consists of 6 30-degree segments, because this arch is only 180 degrees, so it has 6 30-degree segments. And in there, starting at the left, you'll see a lamb. That's Aries, the sign, the constellation of Aries. Then next to that is Taurus, then Cancer, and then you'll see another stone superimposed on top of that, and it has 8 figures on it. That's the chief cornerstone. That's called the chief cornerstone. But behind that you can see the sign of Gemini and Cancer. Behind that stone, it protrudes out, and but nonetheless, the Gemini and Cancer are behind that stone. Then you'll see Leo and Virgo. So what it's showing you is this is the Royal Arch. Roy comes from Ra. Ra is the sun. The sun is the king. He is the royal one. This is his arch. And this is the sun through the summer months. When the sun goes through March the 21st, the equinox, it enters the sign of the Lamb, and that's when Paukar, or Pasqua, or Easter happens. And Easter is a celebration because the sun now has exalted over the winter months. So now it's in its northern portion, and this is the glorious Royal Arch. Now, thing is though, I brought your attention to this arch with 6 stones in it, but if you look around on this very same page, for instance, the second one on the first row, the second one from the left, you click on that. Now, most of the listeners should have the same images that I have, really, because I've tried this yesterday. I've tried it at various hours, and if you punch in those words, Royal Arch Zodiac, you will get the same images that I have. Now, so the second one from the left, top row, you'll see that it has 7 segments and not 6. And this is the key. This is the secret. This is the big secret. And you'll see that it starts from Aries at the right this time, and then it has Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and it includes Libra, the 7th sign. So, and these 7 correspond with the menorah, the Jewish candelabra, and the all of the 7s, the 7 seals. Revelation talks about the angel who had 7 seals, and as the angel blows his horn, and the 7 seals are opened. Well, these 7 signs have to do with the 7 seals. Now, we'll get back to this. What I want to explain to you now, Kathy, is another part of the key. This is a big part of the key, but another part is what's called the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. 2 trees planted in the Garden of Eden. Every sphere spins. Everything spins in the universe, but our Earth is a good example. Our Earth is spinning or rotating. Every 24 hours, we rotate 1 revolution completely, and we experience day and night. All orbs are doing this. The sun's doing this, Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, the moon, everything. Everything's doing this. Everything spins. Now, that axis, the north-south axis of every sphere, is called the tree of life.
Why do some people say the moon doesn't spin? I don't understand that part.
The moon has been tampered with. Now, the moon is an exceptional orb, and it is an exception. I realise that is an exception, and we'll have to deal with that, but it'll have to be dealt with another time. I have done it in many shows. Yeah,
no problem.
Anyway, so this axis, the north-south axis, this spin, this rotation is the tree of life. The horizontal, the equator, that part, the east-west axis, that's the tree of knowledge. Now, so when you have a look at a globe, you know those very expensive globes that some people have in their desks, near their desks, and they can spin them around. They're on an
angle.
Yep, they're on an angle, 23.5 degrees, etc. Very nice, expensive ones.
Yeah.
The more expensive ones, the more detailed ones. Some of them are very cheap, and they don't show much detail. But the more expensive ones, you will see, of course, the equator, and you'll also see above the equator the Tropic of Cancer, and below the equator, 23.5 degrees below, you will see the Tropic of Capricorn. And good ones will show the sine wave of the ecliptic of the sun. They will show a sine wave that goes from the equator, reaches up to the Tropic of Cancer, and then it goes back down to the equator, and then it goes below the equator into the southern hemisphere, and it goes to the Tropic of Cancer, and then it goes back up to the equator. And this sine wave goes right around 360 degrees, right around the globe. Right? That ecliptic, that's the path of the sun. It describes the path of the sun in the skies.
Yeah.
And as it proceeds from the equator, up towards the north, it enters the sign of Aries, and so it has begun the cycle of going through the 12 signs of the zodiac. Behind the sun will always be one of the signs of the zodiac. So that graph, that sine wave that you see around that sphere, that is depicting the tree of life. That's the tree of life because it's a cycle. It continues. Life is continuous.
Cyclical, yes.
Cyclical, exactly. The day, because the Earth is rotating, though, every 24 hours. This gives us day and night, and so this is good and evil. Day is good, and darkness is evil. Figuratively speaking, of course. Now, when you take a good look and you meditate on the meaning of that sine wave, the ecliptic of the sun, as it goes through the equators, on March the 21st and September the 23rd. Hence, please go back to your image there in Google of the Royal Arch. Okay. So the Royal Arch is only describing half of this cycle because it's the good half. It's the nice half. It's the photosynthesis half, where you will eat and drink, and food will grow for humanity on the earth. So this is the beautiful portion that has been described. So the ecliptic, wrapped around that sphere, the globe of the earth, that's the tree of life. And the part above, from the 21st of March, the equinox, to the 21st of June, Cancer, and then to the 23rd of September, all that part there, that's the good part of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So you see, when the sun reaches the Tropic of Cancer, that's good. When it reaches the Tropic of Capricorn, that's evil. That's the evil, that's the winter half of the year. So what this graph is teaching us is two cycles, Kathy. That is the cycle of life and the cycle of good and evil. As the sun travels on the ecliptic, we get life. It gives us life. It's the vitalizer. It's the chief vital agent of the solar system. So there it is, the tree of life. And the portion above the equator is the good, and the portion below is the evil of the other tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So this is the key. Now, the only other portion to add to this key is the Temple of Solomon, which is the human body.
Oh.
The human body is also a replica of that sine wave. That sine wave of the sun, as it goes through the equinoxes and solstices, is in the body. March the 21st corresponds with the top of the head. And so you would put the head portion of the human body laid out over that 360-degree sine wave. You'd put the head portion at Aries. And then the neck would be Taurus. The two arms, that's Gemini, the twins. Then the chest is Cancer. Then the heart is Leo. Then Virgo is the belly. And that's all the top portion of the arch.
Is that where the heart of a lion came from?
Exactly. Yes, it does. The heart of the lion, and Richard the Lion Heart.
Mm-hmm.
Phrases like that. Or in Italian we say Corleone. You know, the mafia family in The Godfather, Corleone. Well, that's heart of the lion.
That word means?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cor is heart. Courage. We get the words courage, cor. And leone is lion, Corleone. So, what you have now, this is the key, and this is the stone. This stone is the stone that the builders rejected, and it's the key that the priestcraft have thrown out, which would quite easily harmonize all of the religions and unify all of the religions on the planet, because after all, they are all one.
Right.
And this science proves it, and this key proves it. The Muslims and the Christians and the Jews and the Hindus, etc., they could all be united. They could still keep their languages, their sciences, because that's all they are. They could continue to keep them, but they would be loving each other rather than hating and despising one another and suspecting one another of falsehoods and so forth, because all of our theologies come from this. Now, I'll set about proving that with the time that I have. It's very little, but first of all, let's have a look at the image of St. John in Revelation. So for the listeners, and by the way, please focus on the fact that when you look at the Royal Arch, I hope you've still got that arch open, mm-hmm. and in particular the arch that goes all the way to Libra, the one that has 7 signs rather than the one that has 6 signs. I would prefer, on the second line in the Google images there, on the second line there are 2 of these arches. So you can click on any one of those. There are 2 of these arches that go from Aries to Libra. It's very important that you focus on this particular one,
mm-hmm.
because what it's teaching here is that this portion of the human organism is the portion that has the 7 chakras in it, from Aries to Libra. All of the chakras are in these signs, or at least related to these signs. And these are the 7 ductless glands of the endocrine system. And these are the spiritual glands. This is teaching us a great, profound spiritual lesson. This is why the book of Revelation deals with the number 7 and 12. And only these numbers and derivatives or harmonics of these numbers. But it's all 7, 12. Now, so chapter 1, verse 12 to 16, John says, I turned about to see the voice which was speaking with me, having turned, I saw 7 little golden lampstands, and in the midst of the little lampstands, an apparition like the Son of Man. Of course, the Son of Man is referring to Jesus, and it's the apparition that he sees is an image of a man, okay? So, wearing a vesture reaching to the feet and girded at the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hair were white as white wool, white as snow, and his eyes were as a blaze of fire. His feet were like the liquid metal, that is, as if it had been melted in a furnace. His voice was the voice of many waters. In his right hand he had 7 stars. From his mouth kept flashing forth a keen, 2-edged sword. His face was luminous, as shines the sun by its inherent force. And there you have the vision that St. John had in the first chapter. He fell at his feet when he saw this vision. It was just glorious, grandiose. And what he describes 7 distinct features about this image. And these are the things that he describes. Basically, he describes the 7 archons, cosmocrators, potters of Memphis, Elohim, whatever you want to call them, but they are the 7 planets of this solar system that are visible to the human eye. And they are the ones that have direct influence on our bodies. Direct influence on our bodies. The other planets in the solar system, i.e. Uranus and Neptune and Pluto and all of the rest, they form part of the higher octave, but this 7, this is the octave of the human, the bandwidth that we are occupying in this dimension. And that's why the 7 is so important, because these 7 orbs, these 7 planets, luminaries and whatever you want to call them, stars, they were called stars or wanderers by the Greeks. These are the 7 formators that form our bodies. It's by their power that we exist and that we can move and do everything that we do. Mercury is responsible for the fluid in our cerebrospinal system and our nervous system. Mercury is also the governor of the air we breathe. This is all due to the forces of Mercury in our solar system. The sun is the vital force. We know that. Photosynthesis. When you go out in the sun, you are revived. The sun energizes the human organism. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
The moon acts upon the mental forces and the waters of the body, the blood. She's the menstruator. She's the bleeding orb. She governs the waters of the body. She also governs the waters of the earth. Saturn is the cold and dry orb. He is the portion in St. John's description when he talks about that this apparition has hair as white as snow. You see, Kronos, he's the old man with the scythe. Saturn is always depicted as being old. He takes 30 years. He's very slow to go around in his orbit. And so old man Kronos, he has the white hair. Jupiter takes 12 years, so, he's not so old. Mars takes 2 years, and he's very, very active and martial and quick. But Saturn is slow and old, and so he has the grey hair. The sword that is protruding from the mouth of this apparition, that is Mars. Of course, Mars is the warrior, the martial one. And in Scripture, this is when God says, I am Jehovah, I am the God of armies, I am the God of war. It's only referring to 1/7 of itself, in that God is martial. Because God, or the God of this solar system, the demiurge, Jehovah, is a God of 7. He's a God of love, Venus. He is a God of law, Saturn. He is a God of wisdom, Jupiter. He is a God of war, Mars. and so on and so forth. So this is the key. You have the key. Now you see the Royal Arch. This explains to you all of the science that is in the holy books. Now, it says also that this apparition was girded at the paps with a golden girdle. The paps would be the bosom. Why would this man, this godly sort of a apparition, have a belt, Aphrodite's belt, around the paps, around the breasts? Well, because that's the Venus portion of this description of the solar system. So Saint John is teaching us a fine lesson in science, solar science. He is showing us that Jesus, or Jehovah, or the Demiurge, the second creator, is about the number 7. He is a sevenfold emanation. He is a sevenfold God. It's talking about the sun, or Snow White, and the 7 helpers, the 7 dwarves, the sun with its the sun with its 7 refracted lights. That's the rainbow. Notice how the word rainbow begins with Ra, and so you will notice immediately the shrewd student of this science will notice that the Royal Arch with the 7 signs in it is dealing with the 7 stars of the lampstand and the 7 stars that the apparition has in his right hand, and the 7 chakras of the human body, the ductless glands. These are the special 7 organs that have to do with the vital part of the body, and they are all spread out there in the 7 signs of the zodiac, going from Aries to Libra. Now, let's proceed. For the keen students of this science, I recommend the book The Apocalypse Unsealed by James Morgan Price. Now, I have this book in my hand at the moment. I'm going to read from this book, The Apocalypse Unsealed, James Morgan Price. Now, and you will have, it will explain the apocalypse. It will explain everything that I have explained in my presentations and more about this process of bursting the 7 seals, and how once we burst the 7 chakras and we arrive at the top chakra, the crown chakra, we will also be numbered amongst those of the 144,000 of the saved who will be with the Lamb in the kingdom of the heavens. Now, all of this is literary truth. It's not necessarily literal truth, and yet it is, but it's a literary document. The Book of Revelation was actually, if you read the works of Tony Bushby, a great Australian researcher, he has exposed that the Book of Revelation is none other than the Sibylline prophecies. The Sibylline prophets or prophetesses, these were female, they were oracles of Rome. Rome also had its oracles. Greece had the Delphic oracles, but the prophetesses of something sounds wrong with that word, but anyway, these would prophesy also in Rome and near Naples, and this particular work, according to Tony Bushby, is none other than the works of the Sibylline oracles. And it was Julius Caesar who, around that time, that he appropriated these texts, and they became very, very important and sacred in Rome. And this is how they were absorbed into this wonderful book, The Apocalypse. But there are other researchers that claim other sources, for instance, Apollonius of Tyana, etc., etc. But I won't get into that right now. Now, another book that I'm going to jump to right now, because we're going to talk about the 7 congregations that are in Asia. So we'll have to now go to the third chapter of the book of Revelation. And for the keen students out there, The Devil's Pulpit is another book I have in my hands right now by the Reverend Robert Taylor. These two books I would suggest you grab, and you can get them on Amazon for $10 a pop. They're very cheap, these two books. Now, the Reverend Robert Taylor, he was kicking around in the early 1800s. Went to jail twice for teaching astrotheology and for teaching the truth.
Wow.
Yeah, but in 1830, he wrote a sermon. This book consists of 22 sermons. And this particular sermon's called Part 2 of Raising the Devil. Interesting.
Oh, my gosh.
So, page 91 of this book, and it speaks about the 7 congregations that are in Asia. Now, so we need to go to, let's have a look, the third chapter of Revelation. Now, which verse? I might not be able to find the verse. I'll get that in a minute, but this is what it talks about, Kathy. It talks about 7 congregations that are in Asia. Now, these are the congregations. Ephesus, first. Thyatira, second. Philadelphia, Pergamos, and then we've got Smyrna and Laodicea, right? Oh, I missed Sardis. Yeah, I thought...
Is that Asia Minor?
Yeah, they actually physically are in Asia Minor. Absolutely.
Okay.
They are, yes. Or they were, at least. Simply because, now this is the reason, the ancients, they built everything according to the heavens. This was done in the Holy Land. It was done in Egypt. The Nile River was mapped out according to the Milky Way galaxy. The Egyptians built the pyramids according to the Cygnus constellation. Other writers like Robert Bouval, he says it's the Orion constellation. Nonetheless, we know that the Egyptians built all of their temples according to the stars. The same thing happens in the UK. This is why you have so many cities with the ending Chester, like Manchester or Lancaster. Castor comes from the stars, for instance, Pollux and Castor. And Chester, Castor, all of these, for instance, London used to be called Londoncaster. Doncaster, there's another one. Here in Melbourne, there's a suburb called Doncaster. That simply means Don is the Lord, and Castor means star. Astor. So you see, of course, these 7 cities were somewhere, on the planet. You'll find that they were in Asia Minor. You'll find that they are also the 7 hills of Rome. You'll find that they are the 7 hills of Jerusalem. You'll find 7 hills. There are more than 60 cities on this planet that are devoted to the 7 hills.
Yes, and there's also prophecies that if Rome falls, the new Holy Spirit Empire will be a city with 7 hills and/or mountains, which is confusing to people.
Yeah, well, to go hand in hand with this interview, I would recommend, I have explained all of this in my Syncretism series. It's probably about 12 hours of very, very profound information. A lot of evidence and proofs of this syncretic science.
Yes.
And so if you go to my YouTube page and just check out Syncretism parts 1, 2, and 3. Syncretism, the True Theology, would probably go best with this particular interview. So what we can do, perhaps go for a break, and then we'll come back and we'll deal with the 7 cities that are in Asia. Hopefully the listeners will have found those in the 3rd and 4th chapter of the book of Revelation. So, we'll do that when we get back. How's that?
That sounds great, Santos. And I'm going to make a couple of announcements, too. If anyone would like to sign up for our YouTube channel or Facebook page during the break, please feel free to do that. It's called Truth Connections on Facebook, of course, and on YouTube. And I don't usually do many rants, Santos, you know me, and I know you don't mind when people are acting from low vibrations to those who are actually trying hard to make a difference to mention something, but I have to say something because people are coming after people I love, and it's just not cool. There is an event coming up that I'm going to. It's Duncan O'Finian and Miranda Kelly's workshop. It's next weekend. And people are coming out of the woodwork, attacking them, saying they just want to make money, et cetera, which is ridiculous to me, and I'm not going to stand for it, because before there was even a hint of me doing a radio show with these two beautiful human beings, they knew I couldn't afford to go to their first event. So they said, Kathy, just get here. We want you here. That's how money hungry these people are. They're not money hungry at all. And second of all, the event costs $350, and there's like maybe 20, 30 people in attendance. It's not a big group. It's not like they're going to rake in the money, And secondly, half of the people that are going went to the first event, and they get to go for free because that was the deal. So please put to rest the rumors and low vibrational talk that these people are just trying to make money, because it's so not true. I mean, you really have no idea how much these people do on a multidimensional basis for everyone. If you did, you'd show them more respect. If something needs to be done, they just simply do it. They don't go on radio saying I slayed demons, open vortexes, or went to dimensional war. They just do it, and they don't talk about it. So please try to show some respect. I'm sorry for my little rant, but it had to be said. Okay, at this time, we are going to go to a break, and we are going to play a song by a great band called Villains Like You, and it's called Red Sun. Enjoy it. We'll see you back in about 4 minutes.
The fire.
We are back with Santos Bonacci. This is Kathy Buckaloo, and we are having a great show so far, filled with lots of information. I'm sure I'll go back and listen to this a couple times, Santos, and so will a lot of other people. How you doing? Did you get a drink?
Yeah.
Good,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me have that little rant, because you know I don't do that often.
Yeah, well, it's good. You to clarify things like that. It's worst thing when ignorance prevails and false negative rumors get out there and just spoil something, because that's what the controllers would want, nothing more.
Absolutely.
They just love that. We need to get on with things and be a united force in consciousness. Consciousness has arrived now for us to be able to be over and above these games. We should be way over and above these, this negative sort of behaviour. That's the division. That's the opposite of what we want. We want unity consciousness, not duality consciousness.
Absolutely.
So look, I think each one of us shows by their own works where they are, in relation to unity or duality consciousness. So it's also an opportunity to for people to, I don't know, perhaps show their negative side, to see, to put the mirror in their faces to see what they are actually doing. They are actually creating destruction of the unity force that's coming. It's not good. It happens to me, and it's awful. It's absolutely awful. As I said to you before, for the first time in 3 years, I've had 3 weeks off, and I put 7 kilos on. My original weight was 63 kilos, so I'm halfway there, but I have not been able to do that in 3 years.
You've probably been working 80 hours a week for 3 years.
Yeah, I have. I've been flat out for 3 years, and I haven't stopped. I haven't nurtured me, and so I've got a little family here, and I can enjoy that now. I can enjoy my little family and my unit, rather than nurturing only others, rather than this household.
That's wonderful, Santos.
Yeah. Anyway, look, before I proceed with the 7 congregations that are in Asia, I just want to tidy off one thought, because I had the book opened dealing with the key, and I want to share a third book with the listeners, please. Now,
Sure.
It's called Key to Bible and Heaven by Ludwig B. Larson. Key to Bible and Heaven, Ludwig B. Larson. Now, this guy's wonderful. He's one of the many biblical astrologers that I'm a student of, and hence have become enamored with the subject of biblical astrology. And I'm going to, next month I'll be going to Italy and the UK, and I'm going to prepare some presentations. I'm already currently doing it, but some presentations that are really, really, really going to expose biblical astrology, friends. It's going to come back to this planet in a big, big way if I have anything to do with it. Now, on page 70 of this book, Key to Bible and Heaven, he says this about the 2 trees I was talking about earlier on in the interview, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. He says on page 71, the tree of life spoken of in the midst of the garden is illustrated by the line drawn from north to south, and is the degree of longitude. The tree of knowledge is illustrated in the line from east to west, and is the degree of latitude. These 2 lines mark the cardinal points of the globe. It is very important to know the difference between the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, and to know that the tree of knowledge is crossing the tree of life horizontally. The tree of life represents, as the name indicates, life, illustrated as heaven, south, and hell north. The tree of knowledge means experience or learning, as birth east and death west. So you see, the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, they've been with us in all cultures, at all times, in all countries, universally. And that is the simple symbol of the cross. The horizontal line, east to west, is dealing with the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because as you travel along it, you experience, you get knowledge, you gain experience. And the tree of life is the tree from going from heaven to hell, north and south. And that's the vertical axis of the cross. So for all the people who are wearing crosses and swastikas and yin and yang symbols, all you're doing is basically showing the two trees.
Interesting.
And that's because we live on spheres, and the universe is made of spheres and cubes. And you see, so we live on a sphere. Spheres rotate and orbit, and therefore they give two cycles, day and night, and yearly cycles. And these are the two cycles that govern the whole experience of life. You see, so we always go back to those cycles, Kathy, the day and the year. Now, the day consists of, if you envisage in your mind's eye a 24-hour clock, and it's the 24-hour clock is made up from the eastern horizon. So you're standing on the Earth. When you look east, that point there is marked off at 6 a.m. That's sunrise. The sun rises on average there at the equator 6 a.m. every morning, right? Mm-hmm. So, and on March the 21st, it rises at 6 a.m. So if you can look at it at this 24-hour clock like this, so directly above your head is 12 midday, and on the western horizon, that will be 6 p.m. when the sun sets. And below your feet, at midnight, directly below your feet will be the sun at midnight. And so what you have here is you have day and night. And where you stand, above you, that's the midday portion, right? And then below your feet is the midnight portion. Mm-hmm. So there's always a favoured half to this science. In the 24-hour cycle, day is preferred over night. Night is when injuries happen, death, you bump into things, you fall off cliffs, most deaths occur in the still of night, heart attacks, people that, you wake up and your partner's stone cold, that happens at night, right? Mm-hmm. And you often hear of this happening where people say that they died in the still of night, and etc. So, but the same thing happens in the yearly cycle. You have a summer, hot, warm, beautiful photosynthesis, producing fruit, and everything prospers and is vitalized, and we have another cycle of life again. And that half is also favoured to the bottom half, which corresponds with winter. You see, so with that in mind, and if you've still got the browser page opened where you have the royal arch in front of your eyes, the one that has the 7 planets from Aries to Libra, and I would recommend for the listeners to really meditate on the symbols on this page. Mm-hmm. Once you have really focused on, especially these very complicated Freemasonic ones that have the chessboard, they have the pillar of Boaz and Jachin. You'll see Boaz there on the left, and that indicates beauty. And then you see Jachin on the right, and that indicates the pillar of wisdom. When you really meditate on this, and you see also on the coat of arms in the center of the Freemasonic images here, you'll see Leo the lion, Aquarius the man, eagle for Scorpio, and the bull for Taurus. These are the 4 animals the four heads of God too that are spoken of in Revelation. I'm not going to speak about that one today because I haven't got enough time. I've got too many other good things to talk about.
Okay.
But it's there. It's all there. When you meditate on these things, you'll have the key. It's hiding there in plain sight. Now, on page 91 of The Devil's Pulpit by the Reverend Robert Taylor, he says this. First, he criticises the priests, as I have a habit of doing myself. Probably not a good habit. But Revelation of John. Okay, he says egregious raving and idiocy in any meaning that your priest would give you of it, sublimely beautiful and rich of science and truth, when interpreted by the key which itself presents to us in these words. The 7 churches which are in Asia, that is, most literally, the 7 holy congregations of constellations which are in the land of fire, that is, in the sun's path, in the kingdom of heaven, that is, in the reigns of the 7 summer months.
Interesting.
Now, yeah, I'm going to have to explain what I've just read because that's pretty rich. First of all, he says that the letters, the 7 letters to the 7 congregations in Revelation, you know, when you go to church and you listen to the interpretation of the priest, it's just sheer stupidity, according to the Reverend Robert Taylor, because they don't have the key. They have rejected the key. And the key is astrology, of course, and all of this true science that came out of Egypt, which today they call Freemasonry, or some people refer to it as Masonry, you know, or they just don't know because they have their research only goes back, 50 years, or they've only researched, what other researchers have researched, and they haven't done their studies properly. This is, when you look at this arch, the Royal Arch, this was not invented by any Freemasons or anybody. This is science that just is. This explains electricity and magnetism. That's all it is doing. It is the science of electricity. Electricity is the only force in the universe, period, that the Creator uses to create all of these illusions that we have before our eyes.
Yes.
That's what Walter Russell says. He says electricity is the only force and the only power from which is born electricity in the universe is magnetism. Magnetism is the power.
Yes, indeed.
The still undivided light from which comes the two-sexed, dualistic electric force of positive and negative. And what we're doing here is we are simply explaining this with beautifully adorned poems, gospels, legends, nursery rhymes, fairy tales, all of them, absolutely every single one of them without a shred of a doubt, are linked to this science of the sun on the ecliptic, on the tree of life.
Yes.
Giving us experience, good and evil, because that's how it is. Life comes to us as in day and night, summer and winter, and that's it. Try and escape that. You will never escape it. You will never escape how life is coming to you, and that is dualistically. That's the electric force. That black, the darkness of night and the coldness of winter, that's what's called negative. That's the negative force of electricity. And the summer and the day and all of that light stuff that goes on, the heat, the warmth, that is what's called positive. That's the positive side of electricity. And that's all that's going on. And that's what this science is teaching us about. That Royal Arch is dealing with one half of the science. It's So it's cryptic. It's a stone. It's the philosopher's stone. It's a cryptic stone. It's not going to give you the whole complete stone. That's for dummies. It's got to give you a portion of the stone and you figure out the rest.
Right.
So it's telling you, here is the positive 7 months. And this is the 7 months that the sun journeys on the tree of life, the ecliptic, which will give you what is positive, what we call good. The evil and the negative, you get that on the other side, on the flip side. Now, let's have a look at these 7 congregations, and I do wish to read from this book because it's so rich, and not all the listeners are able to acquire this book, so I don't want them to miss out on the richness of the explanation of the 7 cities that are in Asia. Here we go.
Sure.
So basically, he just explained, in that introduction, he said the 7 churches which are in Asia, most literally the 7 holy congregations or constellations. And they are the ones from Aries to Libra, okay? These are the 7 congregations. And what we're going to get is we're going to get an astrological explanation of the 7 signs from Aries to Libra. And here we go. And you'll see how if you know your astrology and you know your theology, this is a no-brainer. You don't get a cigar for guessing this and linking the 7 congregations with the 7 signs of the zodiac.
You get the sun and all its glory.
Yeah, well, that's what he said, because the St. John says that these are the 7 congregations which are in the land of fire. That's the fire portion of the sun's path on the ecliptic. Summer, heat, warmth, positivity. So these are the 7 great congregations, you see. Anyway, here we go. Ephesus, the first one. You will notice when you look at the word Ephesus that once you remove the E and the P from the word, you're left with the word Jesus. This is none other than Jesus, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
The Gaelish name of the god Mars. I'm reading from page 91 here. Whence our English name for March, Mars, who is the Lord of hosts of the Old Testament and the Lamb of Gad of the New. To this church, Christ threatens that he will come and remove its candlestick out of its place. And by the well-known movement of the heavenly bodies, called the procession of the equinoxes, this candlestick, which 388 years before our Christian era was the first of the churches, has been removed out of its place. And the equinoctial point, which was then in the first degree of Aries, is found at present to have left the second of the fishes. Now, what I have just read is an absolutely wonderful and very, very powerful point that you will need to grasp to understand the first congregation of Ephesus. It's talking about Mars. Mars is Jesus. Mars is the ruler of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, and the first congregation of the Royal Arch. And it's clear to the astrologer that when St. John is threatened that if you do not change your ways, O congregation, I will remove the candlestick from you. The candlestick is the equinox, March the 21st. It once was in Aries. It now is in Pisces. And currently it is moving into Aquarius. In fact, it's my belief that it is firmly in Aquarius. And we left Pisces at the end of 2012. Anyway, but the point is, the cryptic truth can only be understood once you have the key. That's what it means, the warning to the first congregation that the candlestick will be removed. Second congregation, Thyatira, which comes from the Greek word theatiro. There you go, and it's in Greek. I read Greek. That's from 20 years of bringing my Greek lexicon to my Jehovah's Witness meetings. Yeah, every time a scripture was quoted, I opened up the Diaglott and read it in Kini Greek, which is the ancient Greek, not the Demotiki Greek, but the ancient Greek. So there you go. Thyatira comes from Thyatiro. That is, I tread on frankincense. Frankincense being offered to the sun when in the constellation of the Bull of April. Famous for its patience, its labour, and its work in the business of agriculture. So you see, only the astrologer, who is equipped with all the secrets and the key to understanding all theologies, will ever know what this cryptic scripture is referring to. Thyatira, I tread on frankincense, is the festivities of having to do with the festivities of Flora and all of those Taurian spring festivities of the ancient world.
It's interesting that frankincense is also a very powerful instrument in moving chi, too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they brought to baby Jesus, didn't they? Frankincense and myrrh. Mm-hmm. Okay, congregation number 3, Philadelphia. Would that mean brotherly love, i.e. Gemini, the twins, Pollux and Castor? Yes, because this is the third sign. In astrology, this is the sign of brothers. Philadelphia, love of brothers. Characteristic of the two loving brothers, the twins of May. The fourth letter, Pergamos. Pergamos means height, elevation, marriage of fire. Perg, or to purge. Perg is, of course, fire. Gamos. The sun's highest point of elevation is in this constellation, which dwelleth where Satan's seat is. Of course, that means Hydra, you see. Pergamos is where Satan's seat is. Well, that's Cancer, the constellation of Cancer. That's where Hydra is. Hydra is the multi-headed beast of Satan. It's staring at us in plain sight, and it's the gospel, the true gospel, the one and only true gospel, is the one above, and it's in the stars. It's all there. So let me continue. The Hydra's head being, as you see, on the celestial globe immediately under this church, which is Cancer, the crab of June, whose Hebrew name is Tammuz, actually, they call June Tammuz, Cancer, who in the gospel allegory was but a crabbed sort of fellow and had half a mind to go back again. And here you see him in his position of the heavens, bearing physically the very character which he holds morally in the allegory. He comes to the zenith meridian at the very moment for looking down to see Jesus raise the soul of Lazarus. But he was no favourite of Jesus, who tells him in the sacred text, "Thou hast in thee those that hold the doctrine of Balaam." And here, in the very midst of the constellation Cancer, is Balaam's ass, the donkey of Balaam. Isn't it amazing? Because
yes.
the asterism in Cancer is actually called, in Latin, it's called Asinellus borealis. Yep, and the other donkey, or ass, is called Asinellus australis. So this is why, to the angel in the congregation of Pergamos, John was asked to remind them about Balaam's little donkey, because it's in the sign of Cancer. And of course, all right, so that's the fourth one. We've done the fourth one. So we see all of the indications there. Satan's seat, well, that's referring to Hydra's head being in Cancer, and the donkey, which is Asinellus borealis, being in Cancer, etc. So it's all there. It's all astrology.
It's very interesting.
The fifth congregation, Sardis, the word formed from the Ammonian primitives, Sar, the rock, stone, or pillar, and Dis, God. afterward passing into the Coptic or ancient Phoenician word eleon, the sun, the being, the naturalized into the Greek, Latin, French, and English word lion, that is, the Lion of July, who, having been the Lamb of the tribe of Gad, or God of March, appears here as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, or July. So you see, he's showing the Lion of July is the same as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. There you go. So to be, see, it's all there hiding in plain sight. Okay, and he goes on to say, and here as the Sing avatar, or the deity under the form of a man lion, bursting from a pillar, exemplifying that frightful language ascribed to God in Hosea chapter 8. I will rend the caul of their heart, and I will devour them like a lion. It's talking about Leo and July. The sixth sign, we're off to Virgo. The sixth church is Smyrna, that word signifying a bundle of myrrh, Smyrna. So we've got the frankincense in the other earth sign, Taurus. Now we've got the myrrh in Smyrna, Virgo. The offering made to the sun in the Virgin of August, having reference to the fragrant posy which she holds in her hand, and to the milk pail in the hand of the Isis Omnia of Egypt, the Indian Issa, and the Grecian Ceres, exemplifying that amorous complement in the song of the loaves of Christ and his church. The bundle of myrrh is my beloved to me. There you go. There's Virgo explained by the word Smyrna. Smyrna is the myrrh, the little posy that she holds in her hands. Virgo. The seventh sign, the seventh congregation that is in Asia, the land of fire. The seventh and last of the summer months, that is, of the Asiatic churches, is Laodicea. That word signifying Laos, again, this is written in Greek, and Dikeos. Laos and Dikeos. Okay, they are the two Greek words. That is, the just or righteous people, living, as you see, in the scales of justice, Libra. So Laodicea, the Dicea part, Leo means people, Laos, and Dikeos means righteous or just. So the righteous people, that's Libra. They are the balanced ones. They are the ones that loves justice. The scales, the balance of September, when the weather is neither hot nor cold, but lukewarm, for which Christ, who like Christians had no notion of justice, threatens, spew it out of his mouth for being lukewarm. There you go. So you remember that in the last congregation, Jesus warns them that I will spew you out of my mouth because you are neither hot nor cold, but you are lukewarm. Of course, September, Libra, the scales, autumn it's not summer and it's not winter.
Right.
It's not polarized. It's neither hot nor cold. So there you go. Look, that's just a superficial rendering, Kathy. I can go much deeper here, sister, but it will just take, months.
No problem. We can actually go to our second break now. I'll let you get some more tea.
Yep, sure thing.
All right, great. Okay, everyone, at this time we're going to take our second break song. It's by a couple friends of mine. It's an old project that they used to work on, side project. They're normal musicians that we feature on the show, Indigo Angel and Dove Fister. But this is under the label, the name Dub Angel, and it's called Breathe Bass. We'll see you back in about 4 minutes. Hope you enjoy it.
Transformation. We're moving from one dimension to the other. Transformation. transition. This is the Malkudi's transformational healing chamber of light. This chamber is around you. You're inside the center of the spinning triangle. Soul is inside of the golden ball of light. As the triangle spins, it forms the shape of a pyramid with a circular base. It also changes colors from gold to green to purple, but the ball around it remains golden base. These are essential colors. These are the colors of the heart, of earth, and of healing. Let us see this in our mind's eye. Our mind's eye. Spinning around you. There are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Let's make the transition. Light. Let's make the transition. Healing chamber of light.
We are back with Santos bonacci. Thanks everyone for being here. Santos, you still there?
I am. Right. So what I wanted to say was, see, this key that you now have, people like Leonardo da Vinci had this key. To illustrate, all you need to do is go to a browser, Google an image of the Last Supper. So you can do that now. You just go to images and then just get a nice, clear image of Leonardo's Last Supper, and you'll see that he also displays this key. The first thing you will notice is that he is sitting in between two groups of six. To his right, he has six apostles, and to his left he has 6, and they are also grouped in 3s. So what you're actually what you're seeing in Leonardo is he's actually showing that he has the key. He knows that everything is based on this astrological ecliptic of the sun, the path of the sun. And so you'll see that he's shown that very clearly by grouping these apostles in such a way. And other things such as you'll see that the apostle on the left has his 2 hands on the head of the table. This is Aries. Aries is the head. And then next to him you'll see a very effeminate sort of an apostle. That's because that's a very feminine sign. That's Taurus, and Venus rules Taurus. He is trying to make that apostle look as much as possible like a Taurian. He gives it the Taurian look, put it that way, and gives it as much Venetian characteristics as possible. Then the third apostle in that first group of 3, you'll see him, he's holding his hands up in front of his face, right? So he's got his 2 hands. This is because he's showing you, Leonardo's showing you that he knows that is Gemini. That's the constellation of Gemini, the 2 twins, because Gemini corresponds with the 2 arms, the 2 hands, and the 2 lungs. Then he has Cancer next to him. Cancer has a sharp knife in his hand, and he's pointing that knife backward. You see, these are the sharp claws of the crab, the Cancer crab, and he's also pointing to the throat of the 6th disciple or apostle, and that would correspond with Virgo. And the reason he's pointing to the throat is he's showing that that apostle has no Adam's apple, and in reference to the feminine nature of the sign Virgo. Then when you look at the 5th sign, you'll notice that that's Leo. He has his elbow on the table. This is the month of July. This is the lion of the tribe of Judah, and he is obviously establishing his rulership of the zodiac because he has his elbow on the table. That's the ruler. That's the ruler of the zodiac, Leo. Mm-hmm. To the left of Jesus, you see a green, which is the color of Venus, a green disciple with his arms spread out horizontally. Now, why would someone be sitting there, and in particular a holy, most reverent apostle of Jesus Christ, at the last hour of his life, why would he be so emphatic as to have to stretch his arms out wide, just as Venus does on the scales of Libra?
Uh-huh.
And so, just have a good look at it. Have a look at everything. Every disciple is showing features of the constellation sign and its ruler. For instance, you'll notice the second Capricorn, the 4th apostle on the right side, is in black because Saturn is black. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and he's the only black one there. So it goes on and on and on. But I want to get back to Revelation now. Now, what I want to do, and this is the key, it's the one and only key. You always start on the left with Aries, and you can go all the way to Pisces, or you can stop, at the 6th or the 7th sign. Your arch can consist of 6 signs, from Aries to Virgo, or you can show that you really know what you're doing by adding Libra as the 7th stone, and then this way you're corresponding it with the 7 chakras, the menorah, and you are really syncing the science of 7 and 12, and you really know what you're doing. Let's have a look at Revelation chapter 14 now, and it talks there about the Lamb of God. Well, the Lamb of God is Aries. He sits on the top of the head of the body. The head comes from the word heaven, or heaved up. Anything that's heaved up in head or heaven is on top. So the Lamb is sitting on top of your head, in your cranium. It's the cerebrum. And so those that stand on Mount Zion are those who, it's talking about those who have ascended the mountain of the spinal column, and there are 33 bones there. This is why Jesus was crucified at the age of 33. And he reached the Lamb, and he became the Lamb of God. This is why 30 times in the book of Revelation the word lamb is mentioned. Now, why would the lamb feature? Why would any animal feature in God's book that's talking about the end of days, and it's a very important book? What the hell's a lamb doing in there 30 times? And there's only 22 chapters in the book.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's very telling. It's very telling. It's the Lamb of God, Aries, and so those that have the number of the Lamb, 144,000, those are the ones that have travelled through those 7 congregations that are in Asia, and who have burst their 7 chakras and now have their crown chakras illuminated.
Interesting.
If you count all the petals of those beautiful flowers that are known to the Hindus as the
lotus?
The lotuses, yes. The top one is the 1,000-petaled lotus, so it has 1,000 petals. The bottom one has 4 petals. 4 is the number of death. Shi, the number 4 in Japanese, means death, and it means the number 4. The second chakra has 6 petals. That's also the number of death, hex. Then the next chakra has 10 petals. Take note of these, because as you add them up, you come to the number 144. So we've already got 4, 6,
interesting,
10. The next chakra, the heart chakra, has, well, lo and behold, if it hasn't got 12 petals. The heart, the sun rules Leo, the heart, and the sun has 12 disciples, Jesus. Well, it's in the heart chakra, it's telling you. Above the heart chakra is the throat chakra, which has 16 petals. Above that is the pineal gland, which is has 96 petals. And then above that is the one that has 1,000 petals. But if you count the first 6 chakras, the lower chakras, all of those numbers add up to 144. Then the most important of all the chakras, the crown chakra, has 1,000 petals. When you multiply 1,000 by 144, you get 144,000. And these are the ones that stand with the Lamb, Aries, the cerebrum, on Mount Zion, the spinal column, because they are the ones who have not defiled themselves, and they have kept themselves as virgins and clean. This is talking about their pure practices, because once the adept is the initiate is instructed, as John, Saint John was instructed, because this is the true name for Revelation should be the initiation of Saint John, or the this is going to be tough. Apotheosization, I hope I got that right, of Saint John. So what happens is we are transformed. We experience the apotheosis, or the metamorphosis. With animals, you talk about a metamorphosis when a caterpillar becomes a beautiful butterfly. With humankind, this process is the apotheosis. Theosis is God, and apo means from, or to become God. So when we burst our chakras, in other words, it's not something that we have to torture ourselves or endure many hardships or an aesthetic type of life to be able to achieve. This will happen naturally. We will eventually ascend the oil, whether it's in this lifetime or the next or whenever. It will happen to each and every one of us. So Revelation is just talking about the fact that John did it. John actually raised his Christ oil, the oil of the cerebrospinal system. He raised them up the 33 levels of the spinal column until finally the oil reached the optic thalamus. And once that happens, the pineal gland is truly, truly activated to produce a fluid which it never before has produced, which in theology is called the blood of the Christ. And this fluid, this secretion from this ductless gland, purifies the blood, balances the blood, and keeps the physical organism perfectly in health. But it also has another aspect to it. It awakens or reactivates the dormant brain cells in the cerebrum. And this causes, the higher mind to be activated, or at least for the individual to become aware of his higher mind. And he enters the sign of the Lamb, Aries, the cerebrum, and becomes one of the Lamb, or the bride of the Lamb. You see, we are married now to the Lamb because all of our chakras are now in harmony with the Lamb, Aries, because this particular chakra is of the cerebrum. It's not of the cerebellum, the lower mind, which is of Taurus. It's of Aries. Taurus is also it also occupies the brain, the cerebellum, and this is the bell is also, you see, the word ram is in cerebrum, and bull is in cerebellum. So it's all there in the Temple of Solomon. The body is absolutely replicating that royal arch. So what's happening there is, to be in that number, to qualify to be in that number, you have to ascend those chakras. It's no use living in the lower chakras. See, the bottom chakras are coloured according to the true vibration and the order of things in this universe. Red is a slow vibrating energy, and it has to do with fear. And therefore, this is why the devil is painted red. And when you do things, when you see red, what does that mean? Or when you paint the town red, or you look at hell. When people try to depict hell, it's usually of the colour black or red.
Smoke and fire.
Yeah. And so, if we keep living in that realm, that's the realm of commerce, churches, all of the stuff that's going on out there in the world. The world is busy. There's a stock market out there, I believe. People are buying stocks because they think that they can own them. Right. Well, this is just a distraction that the financial elite have concocted to keep us distracted from the true work and to keep us in those bottom chakras, and hence continue being consumers or churchgoers. They want two things which come from the bottom chakra. Bottom chakra is ruled by the moon. The moon is Kirke or Churche. Circe. Yeah, she's the one who turned Ulysses' men into swine, because the church does that. The moon is the first ring, the first guardian of the first heaven. There are 7 heavens, which correspond to the 7 chakras. Bottom chakra, ruled by the fastest planet, who has an orbit of 28 days, the moon. The second chakra is ruled by the second fastest planet, Mercury, 88 days. The third chakra is ruled by the third fastest planet, Venus, 225 days. The fourth chakra is ruled by the sun. It's the fourth fastest in terms of orbit, because it's 365 days now, where our Earth-Sun orbit relationship. Then the fifth chakra is ruled by Mars. His orbit is 2 years, thereabouts. Then the 6th chakra by Jupiter, and the 12-year orbit, and then, of course, the slowest chakra is the top chakra, and that's ruled by Saturn. So you see how important the church is to the financial elite, who pump all of their extra resources into the churches, Baptists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholic, Mormons, doesn't matter. It does not matter what the name is. Every church, every single corporate church is funded by the monarchies, by the financial elite, by the money families. And they do that to keep you in the bottom red chakra. This is why Jesus is always pointing to his heart chakra. You Google images of Jesus of the Sacred Heart. And why would he be pointing to his heart? Because it's telling you, and that chakra is coloured green. The green energy is more healing, and it's more conducive to salvation, in other words, to higher consciousness. And so the planet Earth is green, hell is red. Hell is below, Earth is in the middle. Above the green Earth chakra is the blue throat chakra, and the blue is in reference to the blue sky. So if you are not at least in that region of the heart and throat chakra, the green and blue Earth-sky relationship, if you're not in that world, and that should be the world of the hero, the world of the hero. And there's 3 types of heroes: the Neptunian, the Plutonian at the bottom, the Neptunian in the middle, and the Jupiterian at the top. And so if we're not in that section, we are down in the bottom chakras. This is where the moon is. And this is where all those threatening remarks in the book of Revelation are, when John talks about these 7 seals, these 7 congregations that are in the land of fire in Asia. Because these threats are serious. See, John was threatened. He knew the initiation rules. He knew that you had to be careful not to be lukewarm. He knew that you had to be careful not to follow the teachings of Balaam, you see, which are fictional teachings, external teachings from oneself.
Right.
Yeah, and so he knew that he should not be deceived by Circe, the church, the moon, the great trickster. And so this is why this science is so important and persecuted, because the churches, without this key, people cannot go forward in consciousness. Absolutely cannot go forward. So now I've got plenty more great points here. So because I want to get into some really, really, really juicy bits. It's no use pussyfooting around these points superficially. I've done these points many, many times, you know, and I really would love to have the time to sort of launch myself into some really, really deep stuff. And you know, here's a good example. Okay, the Bible speaks about 2 covenants. Look at the word covenant. Look at it carefully and separate the co from the rest of the word venant. And venant means to come together. Comes from the word to come together. Venire in Latin. So a covenant means to come together. These 2 covenants are the equinoxes. They are nothing other than the equinoxes. And this is why, for those of you who have the book, The Devil's Pulpit, the book from which I read before, dealing with the 7 congregations, he continues on talking about these covenants. Where I finished off, where we spoke about the congregation of Laodicea, and it means the people of the just, Dikea, means righteous people. He goes on, he says, these 7 churches, chakras, that is holy congregations, that is constellations that are in Asia, that is the land of fire, are included within the 2 covenants. That is coming together. That is the 2 equinoctial points when the sun, twice a year, in its oblique march in the ecliptic, comes to the line of the equator, as he does in spring, about the 25th of March, and in autumn, about the 29th of September, called Michaelmas Day. Actually, he got the dates wrong here, really. He should have put the 21st of March and the 23rd of September. But he was referring to the 29th of September because it's called Michaelmas Day. Very, very important festivity. Anyway, going on about these two equinoxes, he says, and these two covenants are respectively the covenants of works and the covenant of grace, because spring is the season for labour in cultivating the earth, and autumn is the season for gathering in and enjoying the fruits of that labour. The one, says the astronomical Hierophant, is from Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is in bondage with her children. That is the vernal equinox, when that point was in Taurus, the bull. So what he's explaining here, I won't go on anymore, but he's explaining that there's all these twos in the Bible. You've got the covenant of grace and the covenant of works. The covenant of works is the March equinox, because you have to work if you want to reap a harvest in autumn. The covenant of grace, that has to do with the winter, the restful period of the year. That's the covenant of grace, and you don't have to work. You're not in bondage. You're free. And so this is what it's talking about. There's no scary God in the Bible. It's a literal document, and it's dealing with this science of light and how light has two features to it, a positive and a negative. There's two kinds of light.
Yes.
Dark and light. And these are the two serpents, the Kundalini and the Kundabasa, the Ida and the Pingala.
And they go up in a sine wave motion, do they not? Up our spinal column.
Yes, absolutely they do. It's in the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the spinal column. It's everywhere. It's the tree of life.
Absolutely.
And these two covenants, these 2 points, remember Jesus was crucified between two thieves. In the Bible it specifically says thieves. Well, that's what the equinoxes are called. They're called thieves because one equinox steals time from the other one. You see, when the sun arrives at the 21st of March, well, now the days are longer and the nights are shorter. But before that point, the nights are longer and the days are shorter. So the March equinox is a thief because it steals time from the September equinox and vice versa. But the Bible clearly says that one thief is repentant and good, and the other one is unrepentant. A good thief. Well, the good one is the March 21st equinox because, well, the days are going to get longer. The bad one, who's unrepentant, who's going down to hell and is not going to be saved because he's going down to winter, that's September the 23rd. And he doesn't want to repent. He doesn't want to be with Jesus. Remember, Jesus says, truly I say, today you will be with me in paradise. Because when the sun reaches that thief, that equinox, that very, very day is the beginning of paradise. Paradise is in reference to the head, Aries, the ram. You see?
Yes.
And so this is because, of course, that thief died, and you know, if we're going to look at it literally, there's no sense to those words. Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. And here we see also when the sun in the sign of Virgo in August, late August, we have what's called the harvest moon. And then in September we have what's called the hunting moon. And these are also related to the two covenants because the harvest of August, of course, that's telling you it's the harvest moon, of course, because you have to harvest from the previous 6 months. From that, remember, keep the key in your mind. Remember the royal arch. Remember the royal arch with 6 stones in it. Those are the 6 months from the two covenants, from the covenant of March to the covenant of September, those are the 6 months which produce the fruits and the vegetables that we can harvest in August. That's why it's the harvest moon occurs then. But the next month, there's no harvest. If you want to eat, you got to go hunting. And so this is telling you that the next 6 months is all for hunting. The previous were for harvesting. And these are the two forms of nature. Working and resting, harvesting and hunting.
Dark and light.
Yes, exactly. And so these are the deep things that we wish, to go into. The Bible talks, all the characters are solar characters. Samuel Samuel really is Mars, because Mars in the Jewish system is Samael. But Samuel, in the Bible, it says Samuel was a prophet of God. Samuel he was a prophet before the kings came along. You see, it was the period of the prophets. And before that was the judges. There was, and so Samuel was a prophet, and it's really talking about the sun. Samael, El is the sun. Elohim, Helios, Elios. In all cultures, it's always been known as the electric solar force. Elios, the sun. And so the Bible clearly says that Samuel did a circuit of 4 cities. The first city was called Ramah. Then he went to Bethel. Then he went to Mizpah. And then he went to Gilgal. No, not Gilgal. I'll get it in a minute. But anyway, so these, what it's talking about clearly, Samuel is the sun. Ramah, the first city, it's talking about the cardinal points. Aries, the ram, Ramah. This is why he always begins in Ramah. Of course, the sun always starts in the ram. So, of course, Samuel will begin his circuit of 4 cities in Ramah. Then he'll go to Bethel. Bethel means the house of God. So he gets to Bethel, and that's the house of God. Of course, this is the summer solstice. Of course, the sun is housed there. The sun prefers to be at the summer solstice than the winter, in terms of glory, when it comes to theology and poems and heroes. The hero always dies down in winter. Achilles, the sun, gets it in the heel. That's Sagittarius. Yeah. Sagittarius shoots an arrow on December the 21st. That's Achilles getting it in the heel. That's Jesus getting a nail in the foot. That's your Achilles heel. So obviously the sun is not glorified down there on the 21st of December. Obviously Bethel must be the opposite, the 21st of June, the summer solstice. And summer, the introduction of summer, which is Bethel, the house of the sun. And then you've got Mizpah, which means watchtower. And of course Libra is the watchtower. Have a look at that. That's the scales. That's the tower of watching. That's the balance point. Right? That's the point where you watch for justice and make sure there is justice done on the earth. And then the final point is, now I forget the word actually, but it's Gil something, Gil. Now that has to do with Golgotha and Capricorn. And it has to do with the winter place of the grave. You see, so Samuel, when he does his 4 circuits, he's actually visiting the 4 cardinal points. It's the sun on the ecliptic, on the tree of life, and giving us the experience of the tree of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And that's it, and that's the key. In the Bible, there is always these 4s. When Ezekiel saw his vision of God, he was shown a vision of a 4-faced creature: the face of a man, the face of an eagle, the face of a lion, and the face of a bull. Now, you'll find these 4 faces on cathedrals all over the planet. When I was down in Cuenca in Ecuador, the 2 doors of the cathedral had these 2 animals above the doors, just above the doors as you go in the cathedral. On the left door, you had the eagle and the man, and on the right door, you had the bull and the lion. And this is referring to the 4 constellations, the fixed signs now. These are the 4 fixed signs, and they are very different in nature to the cardinal signs we've just mentioned, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. These four feature a lot in theology also. And in Revelation, as I said before, these animals also describe God. And in church, they will tell you that these are the 4 attributes of God: power, justice, love, and wisdom. Love is the man, power is the bull, justice is the lion, and wisdom is the eagle. And so, but when you look up, and you can do this with any smartphone application, you can look up to the circle of the zodiac, and you can go do the round of 360 degrees, and you can point to the fixed signs of the zodiac, and you will notice the letters spelled out in those 4 constellations are none other than the English letters JHVH for the name Jehovah, or Yod-He-Vah-He, the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton. The Tetragrammaton, dealing with the elements of fire, earth, air, and water, correspond to the fixed fire of Leo, the fixed water of Scorpio, the fixed air of Aquarius, and the fixed earth of Taurus. This is God. This is the wheel of God. And this is how electricity, the only force that God uses, is producing all of what we see. So the Creator is manifesting everything through these 4 elements, and they are depicted in theology with the very, very same faces and animals that the zodiac has given us from time immemorial. Isn't that an amazing coincidence? And when you look up into the skies, you will see the name Jehovah, starting with Scorpio. Point your phone to this constellation of Scorpio, you will clearly see a J. Scorpio is a beautiful J in the sky. Then you go to Aquarius and you'll see an H. Then you go to Taurus, and of course the high 80s are in the shape of a V, clearly the V of the Tetragrammaton. Then you go to Leo, and you need to be artistic here. You need to sort of put Leo around on a vertical position, and you will see the H of the sign Leo.
It's amazing.
Now, yeah, it is. It's the biggest billboard
in the cosmos.
In the cosmos, and there it is. Your iPhone will show it to you. You can actually pull your iPhone out next time Jehovah's Witnesses point to knock on your door. Grab your phone and say, "Look, I just need 2 minutes of your time. I just want to show you JHVH in the sky along the ecliptic." They are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, and the animals that correspond with those constellations are actually the same 4 animals which turn up in the Bible and pretend or claim to be the 4 faces of the living God, Jehovah. And see if that doesn't knock them off their socks.
So this is all just a continuation of a cycle that continues.
It is.
Basically.
It is. That's all it is, Kathy. It's explaining this wheel, this royal arch, and astrology is explaining the science of electricity. See, we think that when guys like Maxwell and who are those other great guys who discovered electricity, you've got Benjamin Franklin, you can throw him in there, Thomas Edison, and all of these guys that were heavily involved with electricity. We marvel at these men and we think, oh, wow, we are so great now. Look at technology. Look what electricity is doing. Look what it's doing. And yet the ancients left us the one and only blueprint for understanding electricity.
Yes, indeed.
And that is the astrological wheel. They taught that Aries, the first sign, was the sign of cardinal fire, because they knew that fire is the generator. Everything begins with fire. Everything is generated by fire. And they knew that the four elements of solid, liquid, gas, and radiance in the universe, which scientists concord with now, are the four elements that were spoken of in the Bible. These are spoken of too. The four rivers in the Garden of Eden, the 4 points of the cross. These all have to do with the four elements of solid, liquid, gas, and radiant matter that is produced by the god of electricity, the god of illusions, the god of matter. Everything dealing with matter is electric. Everything dealing with spirituality is magnetic. Magnetic is stillness. It does not participate in this world, but it is of this world.
Yes.
Or it is the originator, the cause of this world. This world emanates from that still magnetic white light, undivided, pure, where all power is. No force. Remember, force is electricity. Where all knowledge is. Not thinking. Thinking is outside. Thinking is what men and women do. Oh, great thinkers. We idolize great thinking philosophers. Not knowing philosophers like Plato and Pythagoras. I'm not talking about these. I'm talking about other ones like, we idolize and give them, we give quackademics Nobel Prizes for nothing, people like Charles Darwin, for instance, with his theories, ridiculous stupidities, teaching that everything evolved from mechanical, no-spirited, no causal phenomena, from nothing, from a blob, and then all of these side effects like thinking come about, from all of these accidents and links, and it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's funny, and yet these in our universities today, these thinking men, not knowing men. You won't get much of Pythagoras and Plato and Hermes and Orpheus and Dionysius and Sabazius and all of those words. Plutarch, Iamblichus, Plotinus. You won't get much of that anymore. Oh, you still can, but they prefer to steer us to, sort of Malthusian philosophers and ones that can support eugenics, that can support the regime of problem-solution reaction. So they don't want us to participate in the magnetic world of knowing. You see, all the things that I'm talking about, Kathy, these are not my opinion. I have originated none of it. I've just paid attention and stored this information in my heart and mind. And I love this information. This is light. This is the science of light. And so none of it is new, and none of it is of opinion. It is born of knowing. It is direct knowing. And you can only access this information when you still the thoughts. And, this is done through meditation, entheogens. There's certain practices and things that can be done to access the Akashic knowledge. We do never learn these things. We know these things.
Right.
I'd like to read to you from the great astrologer Firmicus Maternus, from page 271 of his book Mathesios. I love this astrologer, and I use him more than all the other astrologers. But he said this. He said, "The immortal soul, remembering the principles of its mine secrets, the immortal soul, remembering the principles of its majesty, does not learn these things, but knows them." And so this is why he was so keen to teach and impart the knowledge of astrology to humanity. And he did it. He was one of the finest, really. Finest.
And I bet when you learned this stuff, Santos, when you thought you needed to learn this stuff more in detail the way you have, it just all came together like a eureka moment, like I knew this, I just didn't put it together the way because it wasn't knowing. It all made sense.
Yes, the first step on the path to unlocking all things is that key that I shared with you at the start of the show, the Royal Arch. That's the key. That's the key. It implies the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, but together with that knowledge of the two axes, the rotational axis and the north-south axis and the east-west axis of all spheres are the two trees in the Garden of Eden. So once you have that, you're on your own. You now know how to fish. You're not going to be going to church every Sunday for some fish, because this is what the pastors, who should be speaking about the astors, prefer to do. They prefer to keep people in ignorance, and woe to them because they have thrown away the key of knowledge. And it would be better for them to tie a millstone around their necks and cast themselves into the ocean for the stumbling that they have caused on this planet. The churches have caused much stumbling to humanity. There are droves of brainwashed, well, although I love them, they are plebes and idiots that are going to churches. I have to say that because the truth must be said. And even though, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't, I'll bear the brunt of the criticism. But they are idiots. Churches are there to escape from. Churches, but they are a part of the order of things, nonetheless. I'm not saying that they didn't serve their purpose. From now on, they will be removed, but they did serve their purpose in the last few thousand years, because we have fallen from the heights of consciousness. We really have fallen. And this is why there is only opinion about the Creator left. There is no knowledge left, because many have drunk from the cup of oblivion, which Macrobius says in his commentary on the dream of Scipio, so beautifully, as he explains that when we incarnate, we drink. Some drink more, some drink less. Nonetheless, we all drink, and so we're all left with opinions of the divinity. And some know more than others, because some have spent the time in silence and have meditated and have found the truth. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. This is freedom. Once you know the key, and you have the key, you don't need to go to church, because they cannot explain to you better than you can.
Some people think that the seventh seal signify, and the seven trumpets, the seven angels and seven trumpets signifies the downfall of Rome and the church.
Yeah,
well, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Because what I have done today is I've only dwelt on the I've dealt on two levels of interpretation of the seven levels that must exist in all holy text, in all holy writ. There must be 7 complete levels of interpretation for them to qualify as holy writ. This is why there's always books that are called Apocrypha, or, there's always, in the Jewish and Catholic system, there's always books that aren't considered to be canonized. And the only reason for that, I can tell you, rest assured, is because they don't really have the 7 levels. They must be checked. They must have all the 7 levels. And the historical level, even though it is the most insignificant, is truly one of the levels. They must have a historical thread in the writings for them to qualify. They must relate to history, and it's easy to do. No problem. I can do it. I can easily proclaim myself as a seer or a prophet or anything like that. It's easy because I know the key, and that's all. That's all the Bible ever pretends to do. It does not claim to be. It's not a revelation. Some people, churchgoers, think that it is a revealed. It's the revealed word of God. No, it is not. It absolutely is not. It is knowledge that has been acquired by very, very wise, knowing men called prophets. This is exactly why churchgoers will tell you that the Bible was written by 39 men. It was penned by men. It was inspired by God, not written. Now, I'm a songwriter. I've written original songs, composed them, recorded them, and sold them. Now, when I write a song, I get inspired. Sometimes it's pain. I've written songs that were inspired by painful experiences. Now, does that mean that pain wrote my song? Who wrote the song? I'm the writer. I wrote the song. Pain inspired it.
Yes, indeed.
It was written in association with the inspiration which came from pain. So when churchgoers correctly tell you that the Bible is inspired of God, but written by men, that's perfectly correct, and they should stick with that and go not beyond the letter of the word, which they do often. They want you to believe that God wrote, it's revealed. Oh, it's revealed, it's revealed. No, it's not. It's inspired. And this is why you won't find any writings of Jesus. It's funny how the biggest religions on the planet are Christian, and yet the writings that they base their Christian church on do not come from Jesus Christ himself. You see, this is another hint. This is a big hint about the true historicity of this story, and that the Gospels and everything they are all based on a greater truth than anything historical that possibly could have happened 2,000 years ago. And it's based on the story of nature and the ecliptic of the sun. The sun is Jesus, etc. And so this is a great indication that, the Gospels will only always ever be hearsay. You see, Matthew writes, he says, these are the things that I heard. And Luke says, these are the things that I collected and heard, and from some disciples.
Excellent point, Santos.
And they're not saying, no one ever is suggesting that Jesus actually wrote this word on a book, and you can still see that book. Why is it that I can go to Rome and I can actually see the writings of Plutarch? I can see and examine the ink of his books. And we can still go and we can find books that go back with the writings of all these, right? So this is another indication that we're dealing with literary, marvelous, divine truths of science. No glory should be taken away from these documents. And it irritates me when I see people like Richard Hawkins, very smart man, and he gathers large crowds of atheists and people who are so against the churches. And so you have people who, if you look up on YouTube, you'll see Richard Dawkins in 1.5 minutes. He explains how nasty and evil and cruel the Bible God is. And really, he's only making a fool of himself. He's a fool. Even though he's a very clever, thinking, philosophical type, he is not a knower. He knows nothing. Because he leads many people astray, many idiots that go and clap when he says, oh, the Bible God is cruel, evil, slanderous, torturous, rape-loving, vindictive, blood-shedding, war-mongering, bellicose, rotten God. And everybody stands up and goes, oh, and they cheer Richard Hawkins, the idiot.
Well, not very conscious, is it?
It
comes from ego like that.
Look, I'm not attacking him. I love him. He's my brother. He's an Aryan too, so he gets an extra portion of his
he gets
love.
a little more forgiveness for being an Aries.
The idiot that I'm condemning is his types, because opposite to him, 180 degrees, you have all the churchgoers who hate him with so much venom because they, on the other hand, love the God of the Bible, and they love. And they think that it's a literally true God who is going to smash and dash to pieces all of their enemies because only the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be saved. And luckily, their beautiful, vindictive, bloodshedding God is going to smash the heads of all of their enemies to tiny little bits of pieces, like the holy hand grenade of Monty Python.
Santos, we lost our chat room earlier, and there's some people still on the switchboard here, and I see we had a bunch of questions earlier, and I didn't want to stop you when you were in your flow, so I apologize to all those people for not answering your questions. But there's one question. Do you mind if we take it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Hello, you are live with Truth Connections. Do you have a question for Santos?
Yeah, I was just like how all this knowledge has been suppressed and whatnot. Isn't that just part of, on the topic of the yugas, isn't the suppression and isn't it just part of the cycles that we belong to? If Santos could just share an opinion or two on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it is. And you mentioned the yugas. We've been through the Kali Yuga in the last couple of thousand years. We are now in the Dvapara Yuga. If you follow the works of Sri Yukteswar, the student of Babaji, the teacher of Paramahansa Yogananda, taught that 300 years ago we left the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, and we are now in the Bronze Age, or the last 300 years. And he points to the fact that we have electricity has returned in the last couple of hundred years, and we have light globes. He has pointed to that and said, this is evidence of the fact that we have entered a new age. We are not in the Kali Yuga. We are in the Dvapara Yuga, the second age, because of the higher knowledge of electricities. And so this is why now we are able to universally, all cultures on the globe, we are able to access electricity and understand pretty much how it works. We still don't know the hows and the whys, but, we use electricity. We do. But our knowledge will increase, and we will be able to explain everything about electricity when we get out of thinking mode and we get out of sense mode and we go into knowing mode. Let's hope that more scientists go along that way in future and they come out with truth that they know they are not allowed to because of their corporate funding. But we could have the world of knowing today if this knowledge, if we were all able to speak as I am today, publicly and freely. And so, yes, you are right, caller, that it all has to do with the ages. As I said before, churches have been around for a few thousand years, and they probably served a very good purpose. They certainly served a good purpose for me. I was Jehovah's Witness for a couple of decades, at least, and what I'm teaching now is it's a far cry from that literal stuff. Now I'm teaching literary stuff, and you'd be shocked if you knew how literal I was, 10 years ago. And I'm thankful that I went through that. I have no resentments, no regrets. I was a Jehovah's Witness. I wasted a lot. Well, okay, I'm using that verb, wasted, but for want of a better word, a lot of time, going around knocking on people's doors, studying the Watchtower and Tract Society publications, etc., etc. But because I was a good student and I was a lover of truth, I persisted in the path. I persisted, and I grew out of... Yeah, and I grew out of church, and this is what we all must do. Everyone must do this. If you're still in church and you're listening to this, it's time to apply this science, because once you apply it, then you will have no need of church. And churches are divisory. They are dividing mankind. They are not uniting. We are the uniters. You don't need churches to unite.
I couldn't agree more, Santos. Caller, I didn't get your name. I hate to call you caller. What was your name?
Ernie.
Did that answer your question, Ernie?
Oh yeah, it was. It really struck me how the return of electricity is a sign that we're out of the Kali Yuga and entering into a new one. That struck me to the heart. Thanks so much. Yeah, that totally answered my question. Thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Yeah, you might want to read the small book by Sri Yukteswar called The Holy Science. And he talks about that. The lights have been turned on, that's for sure. You won't have all Hindus agree with you and Sri Yukteswar. They still believe that we are in the Kali Yuga and that Dvapara Yuga has not begun yet. But rest assured, and I'll be vindicated one day, those guys are following the thinking Hindu teachers and not the knowing Hindu teachers, because Sri Yukteswar was certainly a knowing teacher. He accessed the right hemisphere of his brain, and he crossed the Red Sea, the Corpus Callosum, entered the Promised Land, and he knew what he wrote down and penned in his beautiful little work, The Holy Science. And so, but there are still many thinking type, and they correspond to our clergy in Christendom, who still teach very, very literal half-truths, and manage to make a living from the priestcraft. But their time's up, rest assured, and their pedophilia and all their other abuses and lies will come to an end abruptly very soon, nicely, at the right time, when the universe is ready, when Mother Gaia is ready, when this solar system is ready. The orbs are poised, ready for this great action to unleash the four winds of truth upon this earth, and so we can be freed from, the grips of this satanic, criminal, financial elite who have really done a number on the masses.
Yes, indeed. I think it's very interesting. A friend of mine sent me a video, my friend Cindy Vandriff, that this has been going on for the past few months, and maybe since the beginning of the year, that we are receiving gamma rays and seismic activities and rays from the sun, and that this is like spiraling away from or near Sagittarius A, and it's like a plasma cloud. And this plasma cloud is like cosmic rays that are surging in our direction. And what these plasma clouds can do for us is kind of, it's not kind of, they say that this is the same exact chemical that your pineal gland produces, which, by the way, was called telepathine before they called it dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, aka the spirit molecule, and that this can actually heighten our psychic abilities, and actually consciousness as a whole can one day just get that knowing from this. Do you think that's a possibility, Santos?
Oh yeah, it's going to flood the solar system very soon, to the point where everybody will be affected by it. Everybody will be affected by it, and to certain degrees, but it'll be enough for everybody, for the veil to be lifted, and their eyes will be opened. Immediately their eyes will be opened, and they will see all the trickery that has ever been done to them. And watch out for the ones who think that they are invisible, this shadow government of pedophiles, and basically they are two things: banksters and pedophiles.
That's really what it all comes down to, is pedophilia and greed, really.
That's it. Once you round up all the big pedophiles like Queen Elizabeth, Bergoglio, Benedictine, all of these types, there's already enough proof that they're very, very deep into pedophilia. They're killers, they're pedophiles, they run the whole business of duping idiots and making them buy things just to be consumers so that they can be rich and the rest can be poor. And watch out for them when this consciousness comes.
Yes, indeed.
Because they will be naked and it will be seen. It will be so, so, so visible and evident. Everything, every crime, everything that was ever done that was wrong will be clear to us through this beautiful awakening that is going to happen. And woe unto the deceivers who have deliberately gone after deception as a tool for profit and gain, because there is nothing more evil in the universe.
Fade to Led Zeppelin, all will be revealed.
Yep.
That's it. Now, I know you also, we have about 10 minutes left, I know you also wanted to touch base on the pagan holidays and Christian holidays. Is it too late to get into that topic a little bit?
No, that's what I'm going to do. I'm preparing a presentation with great graphics. It's going to be a PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to go through all of the festivities and holy days, starting from March the 21st, and we're going to go along the ecliptic, along that sine wave, and we're going to find amazing, amazing truths that stand out so clearly, showing how when you have the key, the royal arch, when you have that science, and you know everything starts there at Aries on that sine wave, and then you go along and you mark out a day for a degree. You know, pretty much it's 365 days a year, but there's 360 degrees in a circle. So roughly it works out to a day a degree, and you travel along, and you go along that ecliptic, and you mark off all the holy days, and I'm talking about Easter, Christmas, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Ramadan, Low Mass Day, cross-quarter day of August, the 1st, May Day, Groundhog Day, Halloween's Day, Day of the Purification, the Day of the Annunciation, the Day of Circumcision, the Day of the Epiphany, the Day of the Ascension of the Assumption of the Virgin, the Day of the Nativity of the Virgin, the Day of the Transfiguration of the Sun, which is the 6th of August. Why is that the day of the Transfiguration of the Sun? I explain all these things, and I'm going to explain all of those things, and you will see how it all has to do, all of it has to do with the sun in respect to the 4 cardinal points that I mentioned, the equinoxes and the solstices.
Can't wait to see that one.
Here's an example. Lent, the festival of Lent, lasts 40 days. In Latin it's called Quaresima. Quaresima means 40 days. Lent is short for lengthen. You see, because length or Lent occurs always before March the 21st, the equinox. Before Easter, anyway, put it that way. Because the sun's rays are lengthening, so we have to celebrate the lengthening of the sun's rays to encourage the sun, to wish it well on the ecliptic, so that it should arrive safely and soundly on the equinox on March the 21st, so that the days of length and the wishing for the sun to lengthen its rays so that the days can be longer than the nights have finally come to a completion. And they always begin with Ash Wednesday and Mardi Gras Tuesday, Fat Tuesday, and they always begin in February, which is the month of purification. That's what February means, to purify.
Interesting.
Hence, you have the 2nd of February is the day of purification for the Virgin. There's another one for the Virgin. She's got 8 holy days around that wheel. And so, in February you have purifying. In March you have Lent, lengthening. And in January, 1 month earlier to February, you have baptism, because that's what January means. January is Janus. Janus is John. John is the baptizer. January is the wet season. It baptizes the Son, Jesus Christ, through the sign of Capricorn. and Aquarius. Aquarius is the water bearer. You see?
Washes it all away.
That's right. That's January. Aquarius, the water bearer, washing the sins of the sun, because the sun was circumcised on January the 1st. See, the sun's born on the 25th of December. He's circumcised on the 1st of January. That's the day of circumcision, because in the Jewish system you wait 8 days before you circumcise. And of course, that's in reference to the old year being finished, being circumcised, and a new year beginning on January 1st. Then on the 6th of January, 12 days after the 25th, is the Epiphany, or the appearance of the Son Jesus. And then, of course, after 30 degrees or 30 days, Jesus gets baptized, because the sun is now entering Aquarius, and the water bearer is baptizing the sun in the wet season. Then in February he gets purified. He goes out into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights to be tempted by Satan, or Saturn, the ruler of Aquarius, just after he's baptized, and then spends 40 days of Lent thinking and pondering in the wilderness, and lo and behold, comes into his ministry on March the 21st, and we celebrate Easter. And so this is the sort of stuff that we're going to learn by following the ecliptic.
Excellent. Santos, I put your links in the chat room a couple times, but why don't you mention them live, all of your links and your movie, and where people can find that information, because I want them to be able to get to you.
UniversalTruthSchool.com is my website. Mr. Astrotheology, that is MR, shortened for Mr. Astrotheology, one word, is my YouTube handle. I prefer to send people there because they can view my 21 presentations on theology, astrology, astrotheology, syncretism, etc. And there are links there that can link them to UniversalTruthSchool.com, SchoolOfTheHolyScience.com, also bonacci.thefilm.com. We're making a film on syncretism, but I think the links have been removed, actually, because YouTube has changed its format in the last couple of weeks. So I said that you can link up all my sites from YouTube. I don't know if they're all on there. I think they've been removed.
Tamara will put them underneath of this YouTube link, under the verbiage, how to get to you, if that's the case. So we'll make sure that always accompanies the show on Blog Talk and on YouTube for you, Santos. We have just a couple minutes left. I wanted to always ask you what the phrase, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. What, in your opinion, does that actually mean, besides the obvious?
The obvious, of course, is that the teaching there, and of course, these are the words of Jesus, are they not? Jesus the literary, not the literal. Because those very same words, I promise you, you will find in Hermes, you will find in Orpheus, you will find in Pythagoras, and all of the great knowing ones of the past, because they are all Christ. Buddha is Christ. Jesus is Christ. So he that has not sinned, or who is perfect in all their ways, and sin has to do with everything to do with living in duality. We have all partaken of pleasure and pain, good and evil, black and white, hot and cold, love and hate. And so we're all guilty. And we're all playing the game, each and every one of us. We're all having a bit of a play here in this little sandpit. And like the prodigal son, until we come to our senses. And even when we do come to our senses, we will still not be able to throw stones.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, because the path, is the path that we all must walk, and we will all arrive eventually. And we can help others, give them a bit of a push and a nudge and encouragement, and we can be helped by others. I certainly am helped. I'm always helped, when I listen to other great teachers, but in particular teachers that know, because the ones that think are a dime a dozen. You know, they have their opinions, and it's just not worth listening to them. You're just wasting your time. You know, it's about knowing.
I love that word, knowing. It's one of that word, knowing, and discernment and essence are three of my favorite words of the last 3 years. I just love them. And I don't want to lose audio. I want to be able to say thank you first, Santos, before we lose audio. Thank you so much for being here. Your webinars, your radio shows are literally like a bachelor's degree in about 5 different things in 3 hours, and I really value the information that you give to people. So lovingly and caringly, it is truly a beautiful thing. You're a wonderful man. Thank you so much for being here again with us.
Thank you, sister. Thank you kindly.
You're very welcome. Okay, everyone, thank you also as well for being here with us or listening in the archives afterwards. On behalf of myself and Tamara and the entire Truth Connections team, until next time, be good to each other. Peace.
Hi everyone, Tamara here. Just a reminder that you can connect with us through Facebook, as well as subscribing to us on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/truthconnection. We'd love you to join us during live shows at blogtalkradio.com/truthconnections. And for information on upcoming shows, visit our website at truthconnections.wordpress.com. Thank you for your support, and never forget that the truth is reality, and the connection is you.